In this video we're gonna tour the AutoCraft SMP and check all the 24 projects they have done this year. This server has been created 4 years ago and they have finished more than 70 perimeters, each decorated. The tour will be led by Squishy, the server owner. I hope you will enjoy it.
First one we're going to start with is going to be the snow perimeter, which I believe is on the second floor. So we are pretty lazy this year and we haven't actually done all of the bolts with them. They are the old regular piston bolts, and to swap them all out for either a demi bolt or anything else that is a bit more advanced at this point would pretty much take forever, as we have total combined piston bolts that already exist in probably have close to roughly 100,000 or so blocks, and I'd rather not swap that out. So yeah, we're going to just fly to this one. So that this one actually has two different connections into it. The first portal is the snow one. The second one is the polar bear, I believe, or it might be the other way around. All right, so this is our snow farm perimeter. This was one of our first holiday ones we did this year. We usually don't do it, but because we needed, earlier made a snow farm and we needed it for decoration and whatnot, we decided to actually do it around Christmas time and everything here. So we have an Olaf on the floor. There's a bit of a backstory behind this. For our ice farm, we used, I think it was called Marshmallow from Frozen, which was the ice monster.
Yeah.
But there was one of the first arguments between the server members is if we should use Olaf instead. But I stood my ground because to me, Olaf is associated with snow because they're a snowman, and the ice marshmallow has ice spikes all over top of them. So to me, that made more sense, and that's what we did. So people that have always wanted Olaf to be for the something on the server finally got their wish with the snow farm and everything like that. We have a Lear snow farm here. Each one of these modules creates roughly 300,000 snowballs per hour. Of course, with the AutoCrafting we have on the server, making use of AutoCrafting table within carpet mod, because we're just on 117, there's no AutoCrafting, AutoCraft or whatever. I don't want to say anything, but we've had the AutoCrafting for 4 years now on the server, so
yeah,
I've experienced with it quite a bit. So I took these crafters from Command Leo and modified them a little bit, just so that they worked a bit better with the dispensing and everything like that. A bit easier, more reliable. So yeah, we craft the snow blocks instantly out of the farm. I'll turn it on real quick. So yeah, this one's going to be a bit of a frame jobber, but you have the snowmen with the slime bars attached to leads, so that when they push forward, they get pulled back. And you have the TNT that is exploding the snow layers, which then creates the snowballs, which then get outputted into the water streams. So you got quite a bit of snowballs all the time. And then we have them run over the crafters. You don't need a filter because the only thing you get out of this is just snowballs. So the crafter is pretty straightforward, but trying to make a one-wide tileable one is when it gets a bit of an annoying thing. Actually, I'm going to just click this note block here. It might break a few crafters, but we are on a backup. So if you go into CS, you can actually visit one of the crafting tables and it will show you the speed of it. Because with AutoCrafting table, you can't just block off a slot.
Yep.
We need a dummy item. So we put that in the third slot there. And that will obviously give us the recipe, but we also need to take that out. Which you can see the filter underneath has the snow blocks as well as the concrete pepper used for the dummy item. Benefit of this is also just recycles the dummy item, so you don't got to supply anything with it. And then that makes its way around and then everything like that. So your output then is crafted snow blocks. So instead of getting 1.2 million snowballs we have to store, we only have to keep up with 300-ish thousand snow blocks, which is a lot easier. And we have a loaders here by I think it was Hampter and a couple others on the Chronos server. They crafted that up here, so they're full 8x speed loaders. Obviously, no filters because you don't need them. And we have the stuff going up here. Yeah, there's no soul in there. So I'm going to turn the farm off because it is pretty bad for the rest of
I was
everything.
going to ask what the no soul sand was for. I was like, are you using that to batch or something? Like,
I guess I maybe just forgot to put the souls in there and I put ice instead. I don't know what to tell you.
I mean,
It could have been for batching. It doesn't think it's really needed because they combine together with the cross stream.
yeah.
So I don't entirely know what I did with that.
I mean,
but
yeah. Hey, it works. I really like the old, the old auto crafting. The dummy item thing. Obviously, like the new auto crafting table makes it a lot more accessible to everybody, but like takes a lot more skill to do this kind of thing.
yeah, pretty nice thing. We still have like over 500,000 snow blocks here just from a few test sessions and whatnot. So it is definitely pretty fast. We could have done a bigger storage if we wanted to, but it'll only get used for decoration. And it is a brighter white than white concrete, so it does help there.
Yeah, it is nice.
So yeah, that'll be it for this area. We'll go to the next one.
Amazing.
Yep, so it covers a bit of the nose, but you kind of get the general idea here. We have a polar bear stretched to a 530 scale because of passive mob spawn. It's a bit different than the regular hostile mobs that everybody is used to.
Mm-hmm.
The main reason why you don't really see a lot of these farms being created because they have really no purpose and there's not much you get out of it, and you got to make a larger perimeter because you have to clear out all of the passive mobs within your render distance, and usually that's about 16 or so on most servers. So it's a bit more effort than just a standard 272 perimeter because this one is actually 4 times the size of a regular perimeter because it's like math.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we have the polar bear art on the floor that I absolutely love that made this area so much nicer to have. Then we have sort of a gradient on the wall with the snowflakes on the side to give it a bit more depth away. Those snowflakes actually took a very long time to make for each one. I think what Gutons and I spent a couple hours per wall just doing the snowflakes, let alone the actual fade on the background, the blues, to give it a nice contrast to the floor.
Yeah.
So in the center here, we have Fallen Breasts polar bear farm, which you may have seen. It was pretty much a meme farm that was made because there's really no point to making it. Gotta sync the clock here to.
Yeah, it's a full fun farm. It's for sure.
It's definitely an interesting one to watch because of the mechanic with the ice pad and whatnot, but like you don't really get much of anything from the farm. It's just fishing salmon, which you can obviously get with just regular fish farms if you wanted to, but you can see we got a baby here. The baby then falls into the lava, gets pushed over if it doesn't happen there. The polar bear then gets transported up, where you're sitting with your sword, and you get rid of the polar bear. So obviously with passive mobs in anything above, I think 113, the overspawning was changed, so you don't get a lot. You can only limit it to that 10, or I think I've seen some spawn upwards of 12 sometimes with the pack spawning, but it's overall not the fastest of things anymore, even on multi-cap, because obviously the mob cap exists now and you can't go over top of that.
Yeah.
But with the spawning pads here, you have them on actually regular ice. If this was packed ice, the polar bears wouldn't spawn. They're one of the only few ones that can actually spawn on ice itself. And they actually move faster on top of regular ice than it would be packed ice. So then they make their way over into the middle one where they get elevated up to go over into the regular 20 block per second conveyors here with the slime blocks, and the lava is for the baby swimming, which we of course saw. And then it has not an instant, but it's the same 30 block per second vertical mob conveyor to transport the polar bears up. So then the killing chamber, where then your drops are then collected, and then you can split it over a couple sorters for the fish if you wanted to separate them. Because we have the mob head data pack from Vanilla Tweaks, we do get a couple of mob heads every here and there. So those just get burned up over time. That's this fully right here with the passive mobs, of course. You don't need to spawn proof everything. There's no glass on the floor whatsoever. The only spawn spot in this area because of it being I think it's a frozen ocean.
Yeah.
They're the only ones that can spawn in this biome, so just the ice, the only valid spawning space for them. And then obviously everything else is connected with the clock. Right, so the next one we're going to go to is our bucket farming area. This is one of the ones that really doesn't need anything. I mean, a majority of these projects we're going to visit this year for this tour don't need a perimeter, but it's the concept of also making some cool decorations and everything like that, and as well as making a unique perimeter shape that we will see here that was actually hand mined out. We do a lot of world eaters, but we do our fair share of manual mining projects because it offers something that a world eater just can't create. If we go up here, you can see the 3 different bucket shapes that we have all laid out here. So yes, that is not a milk bucket, that is a powdered snow one, as well as a lava farm and a water bucket farm. Generally, the only thing that's going to get used here is probably the powdered snow farm, which still has very little snow left over in it. But the whole area is obviously glassed on sky limit. That's just because we are in a snowy biome to get the powdered snow, of course. So we don't want snow forming on all of the rest of the area. So there is a couple of holes for the farm that are carved out there. That would allow you to form the snow there. We had this polar bear guy that has survived throughout the whole entire mining project here. So we kind of kept them and put them in the powdered snow farm. That way they could sit there. This is just a modified Ilmango farm over here. The same thing as the powdered snow. It just doesn't have the lava pool and stuff on top of that. So it's a very simple farm. You really don't need too large of farms for these kind of things, especially the powdered snow is whether the only one you would actually need, which I made 2 of those. Lava farm, most of the time you're going to get it from the Nether, but if you don't, it's right here and it's always stocked because it just pretty much makes that thing pretty fast. Over on the far left here, this is my hopper speed water bucket, whatever you want to call it, water bucket farm, whatnot. So I'll take a couple buckets out of here. It is auto refilling as well. So if I were to take a couple buckets out, it would then kickstart itself and it would create the water bucket. So people don't know this, it was in the game for a long time, but dispensers can actually auto refill water buckets with empty buckets that they have in their slots. So you can do this at hopper speed too, with just 2 single water sources and a single dropper or dispenser. And because the dispenser is filled by the buckets, it just outputs the water bucket, which is collected by the hopper. And yeah, for overall, it being 3 blocks wide and only 5 blocks tall, it definitely is a small little thing that you could implement anywhere. I kind of just put it here, obviously, because of the fact that it's a bucket. It can be farmed. Milk, just apply right click to a cow. I don't know what else to tell you. Nothing really interesting there. So we didn't really make anything with that, and we don't really need milk often at all. We have actually a bucket crafter as well in the center, where you could just supply iron. We could have also put a small iron farm here to supply the stuff, but you could just bring over a shulker box or 2 of iron blocks, and that would last you multiple weeks with these farms. So there's really no point for us to do that. But the bucket crafter is a little bit of a more complicated one because of the recipe shape itself. And also to make it a smart crafter where it only crafts where it's needed was another challenge for that. So I'll go in the back there and I'll kickstart it. So this crafter here will craft the buckets for us. You can see it better in the water stream down below. But we got to put 2 dummy items to this one, as well as alternate the iron every time. So it's a bit of a, not really complicated, but it's an interesting recipe to get right. All you got to do really is pulse the same dropper twice, alternating obviously the iron first, then the concrete powder, which is your dummy item, and then pulse the iron ingot one more time to get the shape that you want, to then take out those 2 dummy items and transport them over. So it's a bit of a interesting one, but it can be done very, very easily. Obviously, with the 121 crafter, this will be a lot easier to do because you can just block the slots off and just craft buckets with observers. So yeah, there's that. And then we have the outputs of the farms, which, as you can see, haven't been used since, and your buckets get delivered to you above. That way you can take them over to the specified farm there.
Nice.
Yeah, that's pretty much this area. As you can tell by the shape on the outside with the black concrete walls, it was all hand mined and everything like that. So we got our stat here for the amount of blocks mined. This only reflects, obviously, current members of the server because it goes off the whitelist that the server does. This is by command Leo. You can track a lot of plethora of things here. So currently, we're right under that 40 million. And for us not doing a lot of manual mining projects, it's still a good amount, solid amount for, you know, the size of the projects we do. As you can tell, it's not too big, but it's big enough to be a perimeter and everything like that to fit all the stuff there. So yeah, this is our turtle perimeter. This is also one of the ones that does not need perimeter whatsoever, but it allowed us to do this really cool decoration with the walls and the floor with the crush and squirt from the Finding Nemo. And a bit noisy with the walls with the dither in, but it gets the overall point across, and overall it looks better than it would just be a standard flat color there. So this is one of the. Go ahead.
Sorry, I think the dithering's like actually really cool. It's like I don't know, because it's like not a very big like Peri. It's almost like an art style. It's nice. It's a bit like pop arty.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's better on the smaller scale. If it was a larger perimeter, it might not be as cool, but
Yeah,
because of the
I think
size
it's
of only
really
being
cool.
128 blocks tall, it definitely is kind of helpful in this scenario.
That's nice.
Everybody knows the Techman 88 turtle scoot farm that we have on the side here. Obviously, with 117, there is no turtle breeding cooldown, so you can basically just spam the same 2 turtles over and over again each time after they lay the eggs and get more turtle eggs than you ever need. So this farm is actually a lot faster in 117 than any new version, which is why there's still so many eggs left over here. We used it for the scoots that we needed for the potion bird, which we'll also cover in a little bit here. This is slightly modified just to decrease the height. That way, this is with Techmen's, there's a lot, like 8 blocks underneath for the redstone, which just wasn't needed. So I modified it a little bit to decrease that. And then obviously we have all the seagrass input for that there. So you do go back and forth with seagrass in your hand. The turtles will then breed the eggs. They will then hatch overnight. And then you have a bunch of baby turtles that will be in the vines with the hoppers on the bottom here. And then once they grow up, they then just suffocate in the wall and then drop the scoots like that. And then to get said seagrass, we have Illyrio's sort of meme seagrass farm here that I think is over 270,000 or 360,000 seagrass per hour here. And you go through a shear basically every, I think, like 2 or 3 seconds. So it pretty much just decapitates the shear as soon as you get it, which is why we have a shear autocrafter on top here, which we also then used in our sheep farm. So a very simple one by Henrik. I think it crafts a shear every 2 seconds. So not fast, but faster than we need. So I hooked up a smart crafter bit to it. So you can also just throw iron blocks into it, and this will last you even a long time, even with the same speed that it creates. So there's like 300,000 iron blocks here, which is what, 2 point something million iron ingots, which will obviously last you quite some time. So all you do is fill your inventory up with shears, or 1 shear and the rest of whatever item you want. Stand here, and then you just run through the shear. Each time you use one, it's timed to dispense you a new shear after you go through each one of them. So pretty much just stockpile them very quickly. We didn't attach a storage onto it because there's really no need to. You run it for like 2 or 3 shears, and you have enough to run the farms for days upon days, which is why we didn't really do anything with that with storage-wise. But then on the, I think it's the south side, I have my mini hood turned off. The south side, we have 2 of Strom's turtle egg farms, AFK turtle egg farms, which are pretty cool. Very simple idea. All you do is you have seagrass in your offhand, and you have the pickaxe in your main hand. So as you're going through the water stream down here, you're breeding the turtles as well as manning the eggs that are on the sand blocks in the front. And because when you hold down the right click button or the attack button, and you are also trying to mine a block, you can't actually hit any of the turtles, which makes it fully AFKable. Provided you have the seagrass, of course, to supply to the player. Which turtle eggs are pretty much a 1-to-1 ratio with the seagrass. You can obviously range between 1 and 4 turtle eggs, but you need 2 seagrass per turtle egg, the minimum, or per breeding cycle rather to turtles. So you average it out. Basically, it's about 1.25 seagrass per, or 1.25 eggs per seagrass. So we have 2 of these because they're only 380 turtle eggs per hour. So we needed a lot. I think we needed 20 shulker boxes for a project we will also see there in the store. So we needed quite a bit. This ran for about a day, and we had more than enough. So still not the fastest of things, but it also is pretty fast in terms of having to do it yourself. We did something else too besides turtle, right? Well, polar bear. This one's a bit further away, so the bolt may have been helpful, but we kind of only have these tunnels for the tours mainly, just because it signifies what goes where, and like new members can find stuff easily. If you're on the server and you're with the current projects, you pretty much know the area by heart with where you're going and everything. So
it's the same on Chronos, but like until a project is finished, it generally doesn't get a bolt destination until it's finished. So for months, people are just flying on the Nether roof to get there.
It's just the easiest way at this point.
Yeah.
This one is our coral fan farm area. It's actually one of the ones that is not in a perimeter, but it is very cool to see because we usually don't do this sort of organic build-in style before. So you're in basically a big dome of water. It looks like it is water, but as you can see, people are flying around in it, and it's not. It's just the blue glass with water on top of it, so it gives the illusion that you're actually inside underwater and everything there. Obviously, with a lot of redstone stuff, you can't really do it fully underwater because the redstone dust is the only thing that would pop off with the repeaters and comparators, all that kind of stuff. But you can do redstone underwater. I think a couple ones actually have a couple of things under, but obviously nothing with redstone and whatnot. So we have the regular coral fan farm with everything under here. Your regular 72k an hour. This is by Illyrio, slightly modified one to use shulker box eating. That way you don't need 15 or whatever, how many unloaders to supply the bone meal used. You just have the one that then just cycles around. So yeah, you have that here. Because I have fake sneaking on, it goes in my inventory for right now, but it's 72,000 coral fans per hour. We have the bone meal that goes around to fill the dispensers. And then if my inventory wasn't filled, or if it was filled, they would just pop on to the top here and flow over and get sent to the storage up top. Nothing too special with the coral fan farm because it's literally just bone mealing everything constantly, so you get a lot of them. We haven't used it too much. We mainly over here use the dead coral fan farm that Illyrio did design. So because of ward eaters and whatnot, TNT dupers, you get a lot of dead coral that you need, and it's a bit annoying to build them without them already being dead. So Illyrio saw us all the time when we would take the coral fans and we would place them on the ground before going to the projects, wait for them to die, and then mine them up. They sort of finished this style of a farm that does that for you in a not the fastest of speeds because you got to wait the 200 game ticks, I think it is, for them to die. So yeah, you go in the bottom there with your pickaxe. It will then push them all to the center. You can't move a regular coral fan, so you have to wait for it to die, which you can move as long as it has a supporting block to its side. So we have the piston on the other side to push it in the middle. That way it still stays attached to the piston face there and doesn't pop off. And then with the silk touch pickaxe, you sit there and you just mine them up like that. And then alternates both sides. That way you can fit 2 modules within the same space that you would normally just fit one. And because this farm's so slow, we really shouldn't even add a shulker box loaders to it, but we did. And they have everything on the top here all filtered out. And then you would have your transported items at the top there, which I think is all at main storage at this point now. It's because we use the dead corals a lot for, like I said, the world eaters and TNT nukers and whatnot. But yeah, we have everything under here. You have the giant koi fish, you have the corals, the seagrass, and everything there. Bit of a different decoration style than we normally do, but I think it turned out pretty well. with everything combined and it not being a full-scale perimeter or a perimeter at all at that point. Definitely one of the interesting ones. So yeah, this is the universal leaf farm area. The only one that doesn't farm is dark oak trees because they have a unique shape, of course, with a 2x2.
Yep.
I wouldn't see yourself using dark oak because of regular oak unless you really needed to, because they're pretty much the same in the sense how they look. So we have all different types of leaves. Even this one even farms azalea trees, which is actually pretty interesting. Jungle, acacia, even the flowering azalea. And it also gets vines when you use shears with the farm. Normally you'd use a hoe because it has a lot more durability. But if you were to use jungle mode and have shears, you would also get a bit of vines from it. Essentially, it's just a tree farm with the bit of minimized leaf crushers, because obviously you want to farm the leaves, but you also need to get enough leaves to create the infinite loop of a tree farm, get enough sapling return back. So the hard part with that one is the jungle. Jungle is a notorious one that doesn't really give you a lot of leaves for the saplings. And so it's a bit difficult to get that, but it does actually supply enough, even with you destroying the leaves to actually farm them. Which we also needed, I think, about 10 shulker boxes jungle leaves for different projects for spawning potential reasons. So this one took, I think, about like 4 hours or so to get all those leaves. So it's not the fastest of farms, but that's anything with universal farms. They're not going to be the fastest. They're designed to work with all the different types of stuff as well. So we have a 2x2 2-layer crow moss over here to supply the farm with the bone meal that it consumes. It actually is pretty moss hungry. This thing, or pretty bone meal heavy. This thing actually produces 16,000 bone meal per hour that it needs, which the crow moss over here does with the 2x2x2 area. So that gets turned on there. You've all seen that before. What you may not have seen is a crow moss that's actually modified to gather moss blocks, which we also decided to add in this area because it is sort of a type of leaf, but maybe not a leaf you may think of. It kind of just made sense because of we already have a crow moss here, so why not make one that actually just gives you moss? So it has a couple of different filters here where it just only takes in the moss blocks themselves, and then it will then, obviously the crow moss tends to burn everything else. It's not 100% with it just getting moss blocks at the output, but it is a bit easier than anything else to get moss only from the output here. And that's run over a sorter just by a command Leo, which is a universal, not a universal. It's a hybrid mixed box loader, or not, has a hybrid loader. So what it does is it will then prioritize putting the moss into the top chest here first, just in regular form, and then it'll then feed into the box loader where it will then basically just fill the box itself. So you have two different ways to sort of output items. I really have used these quite a bit just because of the different functionality you can get from it. If you only need a few stacks of moss blocks, you take it out of the box or the chest on top itself. If you need boxes, you take it out of the bottom box there. So a couple different things you could use there for that, which is why I've used them in a number of places. Pretty simple area. We'll talk about the decoration here. We have a Leafeon, which is of course a Pokemon on the floor. Sort of just a random idea I had for that to be the floor decoration, and then we have a sort of a regular different forest that will obviously have a bunch of leaves, which is what are farmed. So pretty straightforward. The dithering effect also definitely helps on this one as well with the turtle. And we have everything farmed in this one central area for any of your leaf needs, which is not many for the most part.
I like these walls. They're very nice.
We obviously use a lot of fireworks, as you can tell. So we wanted a way to farm them automatically without having to craft them at different farm outputs. So we made one over here that will automatically farm the gunpowder that you need, as well as the sugarcane. And with the AutoCrafting, we can of course choose between duration 1 and duration 3. If you use duration 2, that's a war crime. Never do that.
Yo,
Yeah,
I'm a duration 2 enjoyer. How dare you? How dare you, sir?
So yeah, I didn't make a crafter for that just because it's not for anybody. Then we have two options there. So you have no choice. You can craft your own duration too. It's on you.
Yeah, it's fair.
But yeah, so we have ENXO4 as right from the center just because it's pretty much the most simplest way to get the gunpowder without having to turn the mob switch off. So that was the main goal, of course. Obviously, you can tell we have a mob switch for the hostile mobs. That way we don't have to worry about them spawning anywhere. So without needing to turn the farm that switch off, we can use this to get the gunpowder we need, which obviously helps that being it's not the fastest of things, but it's designed to run in the background without having any effect on the server at all. And Ian's farm accomplishes that very, very easily. So we do burn everything else besides the gunpowder here because there's really no point to keeping it. You could if you wanted to, but we have some different other sources of raid farms and redstone and whatnot, so there's really no point to keep that there. For the wall decoration, this is actually the first rendition of Illyrio's gradient placer. This was the version 1 that we used here to create this sort of firework fade to it. Sort of with the white concrete and the red and the black. Concrete's drastically complements just the solid black concrete floor here for the simple decoration. And then yeah, we have the sugarcane farm underneath us. To make it also lag efficient, we used a very old, I think it's a 4-way flying machine by Omango that goes across and harvests the sugarcane 3 slices at a time. And this also has no hopper mine carts and whatnot. It does lose a little bit if you let it grow to 3 high because the slime doesn't get pushed over into the water stream. But it's really not that big of a deal because we're limited by the rate of the raid farm anyway. So this produces around 5,500 sugarcane per hour in this small scale here. So obviously with sugarcane, you're limited by how fast it grows, which is one of the slowest ones. I think it's every like 20 minutes on average, it'll grow up 1 block. So it's a bit slow, but obviously we don't need it to be super fast because if we get 1 paper and 1 gunpowder, you get 3 rockets. So duration 1s are pretty much like 13,000 per hour this one can do. And then it's the same amount for duration 3. It's the 1 for 1. So you get 4,500 duration 3 rockets per hour, which definitely is not the fastest, but it is still a lot that you could get with just throwing it for a day. And then we have this smart paper crafter on the southeast side here that I made. This will craft the paper up automatically for you with it shutting off if it falls below a certain threshold. The auto on off is a bit of a interesting thing with these 2 sticky pistons here. That's just because the observer can be at any different, it can be at both different points if it wanted to. So I needed both of the sticky pistons there to guarantee that it automatically turns on and shuts off each time. So I'm using this extended piston here to prevent this sticky piston from extending to start the cycle up again. And this can, of course, craft the paper faster than the farm produces it, so it's not throttled by the farm or whatnot. So a 3 wide area, not tileable, but you don't need it to be tileable, of course. We wanted 1 crafter to sustain the entire paper output. It makes everything a lot easier if you deal with 1 crafter rather than multiples of crafters in general. And then, of course, everything's transferred over here to the UI. Everything over here with the box loaders and whatnot, where we have the toggle to choose if we want to have either duration 1 or 3. Majority of the time it's on 3, which is why it's full empty here. So we have just the same thing from Command Leo with the hybrid box loaders. And then we have the selection panel there. This sugarcane on-off switch is non-functional because you got to go over to the farm anyway for the raid farm. So I don't know why I added that there, but it is there. So yeah, overall, simple area, but obviously the backbone of transportation if you're not going to use a piston bolt, boat, or anything like that.
Very nice. Very nice. I'll say so far, look, what I really like about your server is even the small projects that, like fireworks, like you make that an entire actual project with a mini perimeter and deco and everything like that. It makes the server feel very complete, which is something I think is really cool.
It's exactly pretty much what it's like. The complete. I don't like temporary things in You'll see
Yeah.
them a bit later. I even make perimeters for things that there's no point because they're made on top of the bedrock roof. To me, doing something on top of the bedrock roof just feels lazy to me. I don't know what it is, but it doesn't feel like it's actually like an actual project. It's like it's just built there. So if something's on the bedrock roof, I have a little bit more decoration around it rather than it either having a full perimeter or just being built on top of the bedrock roof. It doesn't feel complete at all, you said there. So you could have easily made that perimeter just on top of regular terrain, small UI, done, dusted, project's done. But putting a bit more effort into it definitely shows that you're not just in it for just the farms, you're also putting everything else there. And of course, with it being 117, perimeters not really that difficult to make, especially if you have a good area. Um, Even with not speedrunning it, we usually get a perimeter, like a 272 perimeter done in about 5-ish hours. So it's not really that much of an investment to really do at this point. So to me, it just feel like you're half-assing the project if you're just gonna make it up in normal terrain. So
Yeah.
I know we do it a lot. I mean, obviously we just passed 72 perimeters in the world.
Jesus, man.
So yeah, when you do a perimeter for everything, it adds up quickly. So
That's a lot.
the perimeter is really nothing at this point. So this is our next one, which is the Shulker Box Factory, which is in a 513 diameter circle, I think it is. That was actually one of the very few scenarios where we actually used a 3-way duper for this, because the circle world eaters are, in lack of better words, absolutely terrible. But a lot of things we use on the server here are rockets and shulker boxes. So we need ways to get those in a not really fast way, but in a way that's renewable and easy to do. So in here we have 4 of ending credits. I think it's the version 3 shulker farm, using the wither roses on the top to get the shulkers there. And what we also have is a playerless dual core azalea tree farm here that uses the bone meal on the moss to create the stuff above the moss, which usually you don't really care about. But this one, you can get a azalea or a flowering azalea, and you can get a oak tree pretty much fully if they're playerless. So what we did here is we combined all of this with a crow moss to obviously supply the bone meal for the tree farm. And what we accomplished here is a fully automatic playerless shulker box factory. You don't need a player here at all. These shulker farms load themselves and everything like that. So you don't need a player to AFK here at all. You turn the chunk loaders on, which is this one switch here that controls everything, and you can just disappear, and it'll just create boxes for you endlessly. I also did add a switch, I think, of this side over here to either store shulker shells or shulker boxes themselves. So obviously, some projects we need a lot of shulker boxes, and because that these boxes don't stack in chests unless you combine them yourself, it makes the shulker boxes a bit harder to store. So we have this gigantic storage here. I think each slice can only hold, I think it's something like 1,000 boxes per slice, even with how many chests it are. So we also added a way to combine the boxes. So with Carpet Mod, you can stack the shulker boxes with always, or only when in the inventory and whatnot. So with this system here by Andrews, it will stack the boxes and stack to 64 and then transfer them to the player. That way you can pick them up in full stacks without having to manually combine them yourself, which can take a while. But there's that there to give you the boxes in larger stacks other than transporting one by one, which would take absolutely ages. So you have those on the sides that you could just click the note block that will then start unloading the slice if it had anything in it, and then that will stack them up and transport them to you. This thing is fully empty, so we've been using it in shulker shell form to then just craft them at the projects themselves, because even when you're transporting even just 2 inventories at a time, shulker boxes, it does still take a while to, especially the farms that actually use more, like a raid farm or whatnot. It will take a while to transport those boxes over there. And we could, of course, speed this up if we had the demi bolt with the minecart chest transportations. But like I said before, it's a huge pain to modify the old bolts to do that.
It really is. Trust me. Just
It's gonna be-
redoing any bolt network is a absolute pain in the ass.
Yeah, that's why I didn't do it. I was like, yeah, maybe I can do it, and I was like, yeah, no. But yeah, so the output of the tree farm, yeah, the output of the tree farm obviously gives you the oak log. So you got to craft those into planks first before you can actually use them to craft chests. So you have two different crafters there, which these two right here combine themselves to do that. They're both smart crafters. Obviously, oaks or planks or logs to planks is very easy. You just lock the top hopper once you have an item, and then once it's drained out, it'll then input another log. So that one's very easy to do. The chest one is a bit of a unique shape to it, with it being the hole in the center. So you got to pulse it 4 times, demi item, and then 4 times again, which that one there accomplishes at, I think, 2,500 per hour. So obviously, with the hopper underneath, you're limited to hopper speed to output the items. There are crafters that do use hopper minecarts, but to achieve higher speeds, I don't really see the point in this one, of course, to use a hopper minecart because you can still craft a lot more than you would actually need for this farm here. And then we have the 3 shulker box crafters over here that are also AND gate protected. They have shulker box unloaders to make the crafting a bit easier and more controllable than just regular items. So those shulker boxes then get returned to the specified location where the boxes are loaded. This one is a slightly modified version of Command Leo's crafter with the shulker boxes. With shulker boxes being unstackable, it is a lot harder to actually deal with them in terms of a box form, or like an unstackable form, rather than just a stackable item. So you have to output it in a certain way. You have to take the dummy items first, which only then unlock in the top hopper, and then you got to unlock the bottom hopper to then take the actual shulker box out. It's a very unique way to do it, which is a lot easier with the 121 crafter, because it outputs everything at once. You don't got to worry about dummy items and everything like that too. So, but this one's a very interesting crafter to design in a one wide high level scenario. So, also to modify it to be a smart crafter definitely took a lot of time and effort to do so, but got to work in the end, and this is how we get all of our boxes crafted automatically if we didn't want to craft them ourselves at the farm locations. So it was a fun project to do. Obviously, the color decoration on the walls is another fade, but fades just work really well with anything. And purple and black, you can't go wrong with it. And someone when I did design the floor here, they said it looks like a toucan, and I never can unsee it now with the little shades on the side. If you look at it at an angle, it looks like there's a toucan with the beak and the eye. There's the giant circle there. And I can't unsee it.
Yeah, I see it. I see it.
So yeah, with 117, one of the rarest ores actually is lapis. And with the quarry, we did a 500 block long by 1,000 block long area, and we only got like 200 ores in it. So it's one of the more rare ores compared to diamonds and redstone and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, the only feasible way to actually get the lapis is Hero of the Village. And as you probably know, it's not fast at all. This is why we had backups.
Hero of the
So yeah,
Village. Let's go.
we have 600, I think, some villagers here. We were going for 750, but the server just couldn't handle it. As you can see now, even with everything here, we're just under 50 MSPT. Even though they're all on vines and ladders and whatnot, they still contribute a lot of lag. I gotta turn chambers off here because it's a slideshow. So we got this just to form the lapis, but we also realized that we can get a little bit of clay blocks from the masons, so we have those there as well. And then because there's really no other way to farm the arrows, we added a row of fletchers in there. That way you can get all the different types of tipped arrows. It is extremely slow because they only drop 1. at a time. So I think we only have like 2 rows of a shulker box, or we only have 1 row of a shulker box filled after running this farm for a day, like 24 hours.
Yeah, I mean the
And
clay alone is really nice though.
definitely, because the only way to get that is quarry, and you got to craft it together. Really, and that's not even that much.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
the clay blocks is a nice little small addition there. Obviously, all the lapis for lapis blocks for decoration, because it has its own unique sort of color for a map as well. So you use that there. It's a very simple farm. It's pretty much you just get bad omen, which we have a pillager outpost down below, which of course is cleared out by the perimeter. But you have the spawning pads there that will spawn spawn all the pillagers until you get one with the banner to get bad omen, which then starts the raid. And because the raid has no other valid spawn places to spawn besides the floor is actually not glassed, but it's also more than 128 blocks away, so all the raiders actually despawn instantly. So you don't got to worry about actually farming the raid at all. So then you get to hear the village from that, because you also complete the village or the raid by killing one of the pillagers that are spawning from the outpost there. That counts towards the raid, because the pillager in a certain range around a village will join the raid. So you get that kill there. This one is by Strom. Of course, a couple of these more unique farms we have by Strom because they've covered quite a few of the ways to do this. You could also use portals, I think, to uh, increase the rates a little bit, but we have so many villagers, it's really not needed. I think we get around about 2 shulker boxes of lapis and shulker box of clay blocks per hour. Definitely more than enough at this point. And it's already laggy enough. We don't need to add portal chunk load and everything into it. This one was another use of Illyrio's gradient wall placer with the black, gray, and blue. Then we have the floor pattern, which was printed automatically by Floppy's floor placer. So like overall, the blue theme to everything here fits the lapis. Obviously, we could farm a little bit more things than lapis, but the main idea of this area was to farm the lapis because there's no other way to really get large quantities of it.
Nice.
This one was one of the other more unique shapes that we've done before on the server, because it's also another manual mining project. We have the potion on the floor there, the cauldron, that like witch's cauldron, that has all the stuff that is sort of there. So you can see on the map POV here, it looks pretty cool, especially when you zoom out a little bit. It looks ridiculous for the scale that it is. It's only about a 270 wide widest point here.
Really cool.
So this is, of course, Aries Brewer in the center here, which we have everything all here. So you can tell why we needed a lot of these other unique farms, because to get some of these, you need like rabbit's feet, you need like turtle helmets, puffer fish, all the kind of stuff that you really don't need besides a potion. So we have all the different ones you can brew here. Gary has them all labeled out with the naming and whatnot, so it's easy to signify what's what. I think they did change potion colors and whatnot in these newer versions. So what you were used to in the old versions, if you played the game a long time like me, they changed the color on you, so it's kind of difficult to know what is what now if you've been playing the game for a long time. So you get a whole box of anything. You can get a duration, potency, splash, and lingering in 444 game ticks, which breaks down to roughly 22 seconds per box. After, of course, you get the first box, so it has a little bit of a startup time for the first box, but after that, then you get a box every 444 game ticks. No matter what you add to it, whether it's just duration plus splash, duration potency plus splash, or that kind of stuff. But yeah, we don't have Dragon Breath. I didn't really get that at the time, and I'm not sacrificing all the end portals again, or the end pillars again, to just get a bit more like this. You're not really going to use it all too often. And the only way you would really use the lingering potion, it would be to actually craft those tipped arrows, which I didn't know this was a thing until I had to actually get them for the item frames. The only way to you can actually craft those arrows with lingering potions, which Feels like a bit of a waste, but it is a way you can actually do it if you needed to. So this brewer has a lot of different features that we probably wouldn't have used, like the restocking, but we had this one built early. So thanks to Area Code allowing us to have this a bit early once we have this area cleared out to actually make this area here. I said area this whole time. It's Abby.
Yeah, it's Obi.
I've been saying area this whole time. Holy fuck.
It's okay.
Wake up, though.
I was like, do I tell him?
Probably should. Sorry, Obi. Yeah, they graciously gave this a bit early too. Once they were working on this and they were finishing up before their video was released, they allowed us to have a bit early access to it. It also, of course, also chunk loaded to run in the background. You really could just add this to your main storage, but where's the fun in that when you could just have its own dedicated area for stuff there? We still got to add the filters and everything like that with the dummy potions and whatnot, but it's pretty straightforward to do. I just haven't done it yet. And we don't really use potions too much besides like fire res or anything like that. So
The most fun thing about this brewer is when you build it, you realize how many materials you're missing, and you have to go and make a bunch of farms for things. Like Scoot.
yeah, that's where all the other farms have stemmed
Yeah.
from.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them you don't really need anything besides potion brewers like rabbit feet and turtle helmets and all that kind of stuff. So it was a project that was started before we actually have all the items to actually complete the brewers to actually use them. Jesus, I can't believe I did that. Holy fuck.
Into looting rabbit farm. Hey yo. Yes.
All you do is you get the throw in your offhand or the sweat in your offhand, and then put your main hand, walk up to the corner here. The trapdoors look straight up. Throw it in, and then just jump in, look in the direction that you need to fly, which this one for me is the east direction on this side here. That cannon was not configured to shoot east, by the way. It shot me south.
Amazing. Well, cannon worked for me perfectly.
So it's like a skill issue.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, here we got our music disc farm perimeter. We have a skeleton here that shot the arrow for the TNT, so we don't need a skeleton per each creeper. So with this TNT, with the skeleton having its arrow shot down here is the one beginning with the arrow. What this does is it allows the creepers to actually drop the music disc, even though they're not getting shot directly by the arrow. Same kind of way how TNT Lean works with the sword when you're the one that shot the arrow. Same thing can be applied to skeletons as well. And this also will make the creepers drop the music disc here. So we have the different couple sorters at the front here to sort out the gunpowder. And then this will just burn all the gunpowder because we don't really need other ways to farm the gunpowder. And then in the back here, we have a bunch of mixed box loaders. We didn't really need to make them mixed box loaders, but what these will do is they will then store all of the music disc. Because we had a slow startup with the farm, we are getting a bit of gunpowder into the back there, which is fine. They will work no matter what. But you fill up shulker box here, it'll then output it, and then we have a little small storage here that's already put up with, I think, a few hundred shulker boxes of music discs. So whenever I need this again, but it was a cool project to actually do because most of the time with these music disc farms, people just use a single skeleton to kill each creeper individually. And with this, you apply a little bit of TNT, and you can kill pretty much infinite creepers at once, provided you have a bigger, smaller, or bigger area for the creepers to actually die. It can be scaled infinitely. Whatever speed your creeper farm is, you could then attach this to it. Within reason, we had to use this sort of 3x1 area here to keep them from entity cramming. Otherwise, you need to dispense the TNT faster to keep up with it. So we only use the TNT, I think, every 4 or 5 seconds. So we don't need to worry about a lot of TNT being used. Like a single shulker box of TNT will last you quite a few hours. And then on the rural side, I think, like Ari said, we have the old logical gateway with cat-based creeper farm with the portals at the bottom. Now, this obviously isn't the fastest of farms, but it is still 75,000 gunpowder per hour, which technically means we will get 75,000 music discs per hour as well on top of that. So he's going to want
It's
to scale
also
this.
extremely lag efficient, by the way.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like compared to other ways of farming creepers fast, very lag efficient.
Yeah, 'cause you have the cats in the center to scare them off, so there's really no redstone in this thing whatsoever. And for how simple it is to build, we done pretty quickly. The longest part was actually making this giant triangle that we have. It's another spot that we use the three-way duper to complete this area. But yeah, pretty straightforward area. Like all the other farms get used once and then never again. But it's a cool thing to actually watch use. And of course, with this tinted glass roof on the top of the farm, you get to see the farm in a different way you probably never have before, because there was no tinted glass before when this farm was actually at its peak to be used for farms and whatnot. This is one of the areas that I said, like I talked to the area before. There's no need to make another perimeter. This is actually below the bedrock, and with the full bedrock roof broken as well, there's a full fledged perimeter here because why not? And that's a lot more to it than just making a small little kill chamber on top of the bedrock roof here. And we also combine the decoration on the sides here perfectly with the overhead, so you actually don't really see any of that stuff there at all. Because we don't have bedrock, it's kind of the only way to like pretty much make the overhead zero without having to do a lot of one-way bedrock breakers and whatnot. So get rid of it. I think it works pretty well.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, it's a nice, it's a nice way to top the perimeter off.
The best part about it is you don't even need any extra bedrock breaking because it all fits right over top of the overhead.
Yeah.
Anything else extra with it's just a bit of extra decoration.
And it makes the walls feel thicker. Nice.
Yeah, on the top, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, see, like item shadowing is like it's a weird one because on Kronos, even when we were in 17 for like a year or two, like we didn't use it that much. But for your server, I can I can see the use case. You do so much deco, and especially you do a lot of like repeating pattern deco. So you're using a lot of the same blocks, which makes item shadowing absolutely perfect for it.
Even without the ones that are like the map arts and whatnot with the different mob arts, those things would be like impossible. Not impossible, but it would take extremely long to do without item shadowing.
Yeah.
We can like speed run those things almost.
Yeah. We did one deco, our Redstone Factory Nether side perimeter. It required like I'm gonna say something like 600,000. No, maybe like 400,000 black concrete. And that one specifically, I was like, yeah, item shadowing this, and it was so useful, so useful.
And these little cannons here that are at these projects are actually Illyrio's small return cannons. They shoot one direction. At the current moment, they only work shooting west. You can modify it to shoot east very easily just by shooting the different slabs and alignment of the TNT, which I have done on a couple projects over there, which will be in the next tour. But currently, they're still working on getting one to shoot north and south at this point in time. So we only can use them shooting north and or west and east. So this area is, of course, indicated by the wool. We have a lot of sheep farms here. It's only one module. We could have definitely done more if we wanted to. Of course, making it inside of our perimeter. Also,
Hey, I know this one.
Also makes it a bit more easier to do and add more space and whatnot. But yeah, this one is not Obby Sheep Farm. This one is Aries Sheep Farm.
Yeah.
Which we have, of course, in the center here. I dualed it up. I basically just mirrored it for all 16 colors and then just mirrored it across the side. So we have 16 sheep per each color. So it's not the fastest thing, but a shulker box of each color of wool per hour is still pretty good, especially when it's on this scale and it's not laggy at all on the server. You can run it pretty much indefinitely without causing too many people stress with having to get into the world.
Yeah.
So we turn it on just by clicking the note block in the middle is the main wool one. The one on the right will stop the shear minecart from going around. And on this one, we actually did include a small iron farm. I think it's by MD. It's a small single dimension farm. That's the simplest that you can actually do with the zombie and the boat. Small little platform for the golem to spawn on, and then it falls onto a drop chute. Simplest farm you can do. But we don't need much iron per hour. I think you only need about like 200 or so for this scale per hour to craft all the shears. So this one actually does more than that, like 400 or so. So we could have two modules if we wanted to with the same iron farm to do so, but it's not really needed. This one's already fast enough, so I'll turn the minecart cycling on, I'll turn the iron farm on, and I'll turn the farm itself on. I actually added this daylight sensor here. This one does need a slight modification if you have a bed bot to keep the farm running, because iron farms are a bit finicky with the bed bot sleeping faster than the villagers can. So you kind of need that just to make sure that the villagers actually do sleep every time. But you can see the golem falls down, dies to the lava blade. Its iron then gets sent into a little filter, which will then burn the poppies and any excess iron. That goes down to the same shearcrafter we used at the seagrass one. And that has a minecart going across to distribute the shears to all of them. We could have just done a big hopper line, but minecart makes a bit more sense. Of course, if you wanted to scale it up, you would definitely use the minecart track instead of the hopper line if you were to add multiple different modules of this. Yeah, this is Aries Sheep Farm. Uses the piston feed tape with the grass blocks that get cycled around. You have the other grass blocks to spread to the dirt to keep an infinite loop there. And they're all in vines to limit the amount of lag that they would cause otherwise. Even though it's only 8 of them, it's still definitely worth it to have those there. It's a very small addition, but does still pay off drastically with the lag.
Yeah, this is really cool. This is the I actually was not aware of anybody that had actually built any of these. So this is cool to see, especially because you didn't build the full thing. You built like the modules that you needed for your server. This is cool.
Yeah, 400,000 wool per hour is a bit much, and the sheep alone getting it into this one single module here was already not tiring. It was just repetitive. So I don't even know how you did that full 1 month chronos. I couldn't even do that.
There's a thing that there's a thing in our public archive that drops the sheep into place. Like you put them on a pressure plate, it counts them, and then it drops them in.
Okay, yeah, that would have been useful than me just literally having a wheat in my hand, one by one, putting them in. So
yeah. Now this is really cool.
Obviously, the colors of the glass indicate which wool is what.
Yep.
And then sheep farm outputs always look a lot faster than they actually are because none of the items combine.
Yeah.
So it looks like it's a lot of items per hour, but it's really only like 20-some thousand items per hour, all different colors combined together. So yeah, it's about a shulker box on this scale of each color per hour. So decently fast, but so that you can run.
In reality, that's all you need, right? Like, I mean, what are you using wool for, really? It's deco, right?
Just deco, yeah.
Yeah. And or beds. You're playing bed wars in the server.
So we've ran it for about a week straight or so. And we have about like 500,000 wool. So it's really, like I said, you don't really need it too much. And then if you do, you kind of just run it for a week and you have enough to stockpile forever in a sense.
Exactly.
It's the same loaders that I used before with Command Leo. So you have the hybrid with the shulker boxes and the regular items. It was usually only the one chest, but then I realized we needed a lot more storage for it. So I just added this giant chest monster on the bottom, which actually kind of works with the decoration to like support it up technically, but it was a
Oh,
last
yeah, I
minute
see, yeah.
addition, last minute
Yeah,
addition
yeah.
to actually provide more storage.
Yeah, that's fine. I did something similar with our bartering storage recently. As always, deco on point. This floor, incredible.
It was an interesting one. It's kind of cut off, you can kind of tell, but it works pretty well with obviously all the colors for the sheep, and then you have the walls up here. This perimeter here is, of course, another one of Fallen's passive mob farms, which is the Parrot farm, which is a bit of one of the worst things I've ever made. Turtle lakes and whatnot, observers and all that kind of stuff. It was very painful to do. If we didn't have after clicker for the turtle lakes themselves, it probably would have taken about like 20 hours to build just alone. But with after clicker, it's a lot easier to do the 2 turtle eggs per block there. So yeah, the wall decoration that sort of fits the parrot theme with the red and lime. Looks like a parrot's beak at the center there. You can kind of see that. But then you have the floor decoration, which was one of the other ones that would have taken a long time to do if we didn't have the shadow hall, because there's a lot of each color here for the floor decoration, but it fits the area perfectly. So it was definitely a nice addition to this perimeter. Yeah, so the farm itself is basically slime conveyors with the pistons. It uses the jungle leaves for the parrots to spawn because they're the only mob that can actually spawn on leaves. So you can actually do this in the jungle. And then it also brings them all the way up to the player for a single dimension looting based version, which I will turn on. So the clock is synced down, everything like that. So the parrots are going to make their way spawn in. It uses the slime bars with the pistons to push them a lot faster. And then it also diagonally pushes them up to the player up here. Or you'll be sitting AFK. You have a small window that you can actually hit them to get with the right clock speed and everything, but usually you would hit the armor stand here. Then move this. It's not good. Okay, so you're basically just sitting here with the sword, and every 400 game ticks, since passive mobs only spawn every 20 seconds, you're then just waiting for the parrots to spawn up there and be transported to you. So you can get the looting effect. The only thing the parrots drop is, of course, feathers, which you can, of course, get other ways like chickens and whatnot. But with what we were trying to do here and farm the more unique mobs this year, we did a lot of passive mob farms that you normally wouldn't see, and this happens to be also one of the fastest parrot farms. Of course, with overspawning being decreased and there's no bedrock break in here, you could make it a bit faster if you wanted to, but it is also faster than the portal spam farm, which I'm slowly trying to avoid with projects and whatnot. It's because of, every farm looks the same, whereas this one, it's one of the more very unique farms that you have here. So you probably never seen this before unless you saw it on Fallen's YouTube channel.
Incredibly base. Reject portal spam.
So I think if it was in 113 or 112 or whatnot, it was I think it was 113. It was about 6,900 parrots per hour. With this one, we get around 1,300 or it was 6,900 feathers per hour. So it was about 1,400 parrots per hour. I think we get around like 1,200, 1,100 parrots per hour. With it being in 117. So not fast, but it's still a very unique farm and cool to watch running with all the diagonal upwards extended piston bolts. Well, not piston bolts, but mob conveyors and whatnot.
Yeah, that's cool. It's very cool.
And of course, your feathers are then transported up here. So I think I ran it for overnight one time. So we got definitely more feathers than we will probably ever need, because there's really not much use for them at all.
Banging.
So yeah, that's definitely Another thing that is not needed whatsoever, and you don't even need this tall of a drop chute for the fish, but it's also a very satisfying farm to watch run. With them following the large drop chute here, but you can't tell, this is theming around the Bikini Bottom from SpongeBob. We have the sky, we have the floor, and we have all the houses and whatnot in the main area, which is another unique one that we haven't normally decorated like this before, so it was a interesting thing to build, to say the least. There's just so many different types of blocks that you have to actually do to make the decoration and all that kind of stuff. So the floor, with it being sand and gravel, we actually had to place a temporary block underneath it. So there's actually the light gray concrete is what is actually on top of the bedrock. That we'd be able to place the sand and everything like that very easily. Otherwise, it would be a huge pain to do this floor. Then we have the collection in the center. None of the farms, or all the buildings are decorated. They have interiors and all that kind of stuff, but you're really not going to see them all too much. And yeah, the collection is a bit overkill. Obviously, you could have them just drop into a 1x1 to store them that way, but where's the fun in that? So we have this little shifting floor that goes around, brings the drops to a 1x1,
Yeah.
and then those get aligned and then shot over the shulker box litter. So we get puffer fish as well as tropical fish because we built it in a warm ocean biome rather than anything else. I'm going to fly to the overworld side and load it. If you wanted to CS to me once you're wanted to see the overworld side, you can do that. So I think this is Terravoxel's fish farm. So it's just basically portals with observers and pistons that push them into the portal. So on the other side there, you should start seeing fish coming in momentarily. Surprisingly, with how much it is, it's actually quite lag efficient. It's just terrible for the client. Got the guy there. All it is just pistons in the overworld that are pushing everything in. Fish have like 2 hearts or whatever, so you can drop them like 5 blocks and die. So you really don't need this giant drop chute, like I said, but it's very satisfying to see all of them bounce up and spew everywhere within the windmill here that we have. So because I said it's in the warm ocean, we only get the tropical. We get a little bit of cod, really, but it's not really anything special to keep. And so we use the pufferfish, obviously, to fill Avi's Brewer, not it. I got the overworld side here. I'll turn the farm off. That you guys don't branch in and whatnot. But yeah, the overworld side here, it is a manual mining project that we did here as well. It's in the shape of this pufferfish that we found for the art. So it works really well with everything, and it was a pain to clear out and drain because obviously it's not a square, so draining a non-square shape is very annoying in the ocean if you've ever done it before.
I highly not recommend it.
Yeah.
So if you go to the overworld side, you can see it if you want. What we did then, the way we made we made the biggest square that we could, or rectangle rather, with the shape, and we used sweepers to clear that main chunk out, and then we had to obviously drain the rest of it by hand that was left over. The only benefit of mining in the ocean is there's not very many layers because a lot of it is just water, but clearing out the water takes drastically longer than it would just be to mine out with those full blocks and whatnot. So yeah, that's pretty much this area. Obviously, a lot of time went into the nether side more than anything just because of all the decoration there, but also went a lot to mine out this area by hand and drain it, all that kind of stuff. Actually, what I'm going to do is the Hoglin one. This was one of the earliest nether side projects I did besides the Wither Skeleton, but I recently redid it with a updated farm and perimeter decoration and overworld side, so we're going to go over there, fly down this one, or make the piston bolt, whatever works. And with these nether side farms, we usually have an overworld side perimeter now, and we usually make a castle that is themed around the mob that we're farming. So we'll also see that with this one here. Same thing with this one, we broke the full bedrock roof of the perimeter just because why not? And we have the mob floor arts and everything like that, so rather more unique wall decoration and floor. The floor's a bit hard. I think it would look a lot better on a 500 scale, but you know, not really the most fun thing to do in the Nether. And it is one of the old farm designs by I think it's Doc M and the Sidecraft crew. They worked on this one when the Hoglin was first introduced because it was one of the ways you can get Hoglins or pork chops and food and whatnot really, really fast. So that's what the Hoglins have been sort of mainly made for, is food at this point. So it uses the trapdoors, obviously, to limit the height spawning for the mobs. And it uses the jack-o'-lanterns to, I believe, only allow the Hoglins to spawn and no piglins and whatnot. And the armor stands inside of the portal frames are there to stop the pigmen from the random tick from the portals to spawn as well. There's no bedrock break-in needed necessarily, besides getting it to Y0, and there's no update suppression required. So you can make a faster farm with update suppression, of course, but there's really no need. This is already like 800,000 cooked pork chops per hour, so there's not really.
Can we talk about how cursed the map art is on the floor?
It's a little bit cursed, yeah. This one was like it never turned out good when I tried to convert it at all.
It's
no matter what I did.
horrific.
It's one of the worser ones, yeah. Unless you have a map, like a voxel map or whatnot, and you zoom like all the way out, that's the only time it's like you can actually make out what it is. In game, you can't really tell how you're looking at.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd say even the starting material though is a bit cursed.
Yeah,
the fat face.
It did. Yeah, the artist was a bit confused with this one. If out of the portal at the top here, we'll go to the overworld side to show the processing chamber off. We're not going to run this farm because it's pretty standard with the portal spam. You can see a bunch of Hoglins and whatnot going through the overworld side. So yeah, in the overworld side, like I said, we usually do a full perimeter just because it looks a lot cooler with these dual dimension farms. And we have a giant castle in the center that is color themed around the mob that's farming. Hoglin's a bit of a weird one to actually get the right sort of blocks, palettes, and whatnot. So we use like an orange and gray sort of theme there with the red sandstone and the stripped like acacia wood. Works pretty well with this one here. So then we have this giant drop chute in the center of the castle. We needed a pretty tall castle because Hoglins fall. Need a lot of blocks to fall based off fall damage, and we have them go through a lava blade first. So you need a pretty big area for them to fall down in the center there for the processing, and it's non-looting, so you can use TNT looting in this thing as well too, but it's really not needed. You run it for a few seconds just to test it, and you already have enough work to last you for like multiple years. Yeah, once they fall, we have a little bit of a shifted floor. That way we put the items down into the shulker box loaders down the middle, and then all that gets sorted with these. I think they're Bill's minimum pre-fill 6x box loaders, so they're really easy to set up and whatnot to scale to the rate that we need. And then everything is then obviously transported to the small little storage that we have per side to grab a bunch of pork. I think it prefers one side more than the other. So we still have a lot of pork here with all the stuff in main storage and whatnot as well. So yeah, overall, like Juthan said, the castle fits perfectly with the floor decoration. Looks like it's all in one. And it's like cool, unique little shape there. I don't know if that's like 50 million ender chests on the ones. Oh, that's in the ones. I see. There's an ender chest on one of these sides here that just is a sus shape. Yeah, this little area here, obviously how we get all of our cooked pork chops and whatnot to feed us for the rest of the world. So this is like the year of unique farms. We have the cat gifted area because we have phantom spawning disabled. The only way to then get the phantom membranes we needed for Avi's Brewer was to do a cat gifted farm. And what we have here is something they showed on the Peaceful series. with the Sidecraft crew. They had a bunch of cats that were trapped in minecarts in the center of the player here. So I think there's like 600 some cats here. So I'm going to get in the center here and actually show you guys the farm in action. Of course, it can only be used when you sleep, so it's very slow, even with this many cats. So I'm going to, because we're on a copy, there's 618 cats, so 616 because there's 2 on the side here for the storage. But you have seen this before. It is quite fun to actually watch in third person to see the farm working. So I'm going to get in the center here, get set up, and I'm going to sleep right now. That will then start the farm. It'll start to lag a little bit, but once I wake up, all the drops there from the center are transported over. Because all the cats are trapped in glass, it pushes all the items up top as well. And then all the drops are then sorted by the shulker box things there. So that's how you can get all of your phantom membranes. They are one of the lowest drop chance, the phantom membranes, so you don't get that many per hour. But it's still something that you can actually get the membranes in a different way rather than just making a simple phantom farm. This is also another custom shaped dig here. We have the Garfield face, which probably a lot of you know about Garfield. We got this little shape here with the whiskers and whatnot. So it's a unique shape. We also kept all of the 4 different individual fossils we have here that were in this area. This was actually generated in pre-116 terrain. Pre-117 terrain, rather. It's just 116. So the world actually did start in 116 and upgraded to 117. But so there's no deep slate in this area at all. So it was earlier generation and whatnot.
Fun fact about the Cronus SMP, our day count is completely fucked because one time something weird happened on SMP and I thought we were going to have to load a backup. So I, for whatever reason, something was happening, and I reset the day-night cycle. And then we didn't end up loading a backup. So it's all fucked now. The day count's completely off. None of it makes sense.
Yeah, when you set the time to like day or whatnot, it resets it back to 0, which is rather interesting.
Yeah, no.
I mean the day counter, who really cares? So yeah, all this was done in one day. Very fast workers here.
Yeah, hardcore players in a nutshell. Look, guys, my day count is only
magically
37.
reset.
Beppo's bedrock breaking.
It was made in a bit of a unique area, which is why it's so far away, because Ray Arms you can make anywhere, but we made it in the center with a pillager outpost. That way we could get Bad Omen easily. We used the Bad Omen bank by Ive, and I think Bread.
Yep.
So we could just get a bunch of pillagers in the center very easily. And then just stockpile them, because with Portal Linking we had to actually get rid of the Bad Omen bank. But it's basically just like, like a mini raid farm in a sense. And you just take the pillager captains to attack the Bad Omen. So yeah, we have 2 of Garlic Bread's double or ultimate raid farms here, which produce, I think, 83,000 or something redstone dust per hour. So, 1 is not enough. We made it 2. This is actually the 3rd one of this version of this farm we made on the server. Mainly because with the redstone area we had in the previous world tour, we only stored the redstone and I think it was just the redstone at all. Because that's all we needed in that area. For this one, we wanted to store everything with the farm. So use any of the portals, doesn't matter, the top farms or the ones, the items down here, which have the glass on them. You can go to the overworld side, we'll show that off real quick. But yeah, for obvious reasons, we're not going to run this farm because I think everybody would disconnect pretty much instantly with how fast these things are. I think it's like 4.5 million items per hour combined between the 2. so it's a bit much. But this one was actually printed. It wasn't shadowed because it's a 530 block perimeter. Just because there's so many entities, it makes sense to do a full render distance run. We actually need the space for the ultimate breed farms to actually work properly, this close together. So in the center here, we have the Battleman Bank, or what's left of the Battleman Bank, where we have all of the pillagers. So what you would do is you would click the button here. It would then dispense one of the guys that you would then obviously just chop them down. You then get that omen, and then you just fly right to the farm, and then it starts the process. But obviously, I'm not going to do that right now. We have the storages on the side here. I think it's probably OB storage again, with the giant shulker box loaders and whatnot that stores every single thing the farm produces. Yeah, this is not just one. We have two of them because we have two of the different farms, and it's a lot easier just to have them stored separately because of item lifetime. There's so many items. If we were to put it all into one storage, it would be a bit much to try to store and everything like that. So, but just made two of them. They're pretty big bulks, so it didn't take too long to make, but it's a lot of shulker boxes to store all the items per hour, which is where a lot of the shulker boxes from the shulker box factory did go. So last two ones over here for this bit are the Strider and the mushroom one. So we'll go to the mushroom first, since it's the closest one. So we needed a bit of mushroom stems for decorations and also the brown mushroom. So we made a whole different area to farm those entirely. This farm, or this area, actually uses a little bit of a more unique farm type because there's a lot of different ways to actually farm said mushrooms. And of course, it also, like Chrissy said, it is dug out in the shape of a Mario mushroom to fit the theme of the area pretty nice. Yeah, so these farms, we have two different ones that can farm mushroom stems. The first one is Illyria's one that is brown mushroom based, which is a lot easier to actually work with. That one is over here. I think it's around 4,000 stems per hour. So we have that one over there. Very simple design. You're using the same single player to plant the mushrooms, as well as to mine the mushroom stems that come across from the side here. And then to farm the red mushrooms as well as the stems, we have, I believe it is Dark's farm that has just a horse that goes up and down in the center here. So you have a horse here. When you hit when the thing grows, horse gets pushed up.
Yeah.
And then it goes up and down like that to farm the mushroom stems and everything like that. So it's it's a weird one, but it works.
One of the farms of all time for sure.
Yeah, it's like the only one I could find that actually was not.
Yep. we genuinely, we've used that on Kronos for years, and it is, well, it's a farm.
It's a farm. Can't see us using it too much because we got the other one for Illyria to get the stems a lot faster and whatnot. But more reliable. But yeah, this one here, this is the brown mushroom farm, the mushroom block farm. It is one of the more interesting things to actually see run because it harvests the full mushroom in under 2 seconds with mining up all the stems itself. So I'll just do this real quick.
This looks so overkill for a mushroom farm.
It really is. Yeah, although one left here is the brown mushrooms, or the red mushrooms themselves, which this one does. I actually had to make this abomination myself. I really didn't see any other ones out there that actually did this besides just the regular spread-in red mushroom ones. This is the red mushroom one. It uses just the pistons to push the red mushrooms over in the stems, and then uses the TNT to blow the red mushroom blocks and stems up. And then those drops then fall and get collected into the water stream. Red mushrooms are generally a lot harder to deal with just because of the way that they generate compared to the brown mushrooms. They're a lot less blocks per mushroom, as well as they're a bit unique in the way they generate with the shape. It's a lot more difficult to actually deal with them generate, and then it would be the brown mushroom would be Hoglin on the other side there. So this is a very thrown together farm, but it does work and gets you more mushrooms than you actually use. So it technically is a farm. A lot of these more different ones here aren't really the best of the best, but they function for the purpose that they give and allows you to actually get what you need. Obviously, we need the red and brown mushroom farms themselves to actually run the block farms. Otherwise, you wouldn't get enough return back to actually run those ones. But yeah, this is where we get all of the mushroom blocks and stuff here. This one here is our Strider Farm Perimeter, and of course it is another passive mob, so we needed a 530 block area here for the perimeter to work the way we wanted to. And we also had to clear out all of our chunk loaders with the blocks there. That way there was no Striders being loaded by that. There was a couple that we didn't do, like the make the bat switch and whatnot. So we had to turn that one off. Otherwise that area would be loaded. But this one is a farm that actually I designed because there wasn't any really fast Strider farms because, like I said, there's no point to do so. This one does use update suppressed portals because it was kind of the only way I could get it to work in a way I wanted to. This is only a single chunk version. You can make a 2x2 chunk version if you wanted to as well. But this one already gets you a shulker box of string per hour for its size. It's really easy to do. And in 1.17, the Striders that do spawn with mobs on top of them actually won't go through the portal, so it's not a fully functional farm AFK-wise. But actually, I think it was in 121 they allowed Strider mobs with riders or whatnot to actually go through the portals. This farm could only be done that way in that version, but you could actually get the portals suppressed like this, which I believe it's still possible to. So we have the area here so that we can get more spawning spaces with the lava on the outside. So normally with the full-fledged farm, you would have 2x2 chunks of update suppressed portals in the center there with lava underneath to get a lot of spawns there. These flying machines on the side are designed to push the mobs that spawn on the outside lava into the portal. That way you get more spawning spaces than just the 2x2 chunk area. Make it a bit more efficient in that regard. But yeah, unlike the Hoglin one, we have the floor art here, which is one of the best perimeters that I think we ever have with this art. This one turned out absolutely amazing with the floor,
Yeah,
especially on this scale. It was a very nice thing to see fully finished and whatnot. Then we have the decoration for the walls, which is a weird pattern, but I've used it before. I think the pillars themselves are from the squid area. It's a different one that I made up for this area here. And of course, you can tell the whole bedrock roof is also broken across this one, which was definitely not needed, but was definitely a nice thing to do to tie the whole project together because it's not that difficult anymore to break the bedrock roof with the new stuff and whatnot. New bedrock breaker tech and recycle and pistons and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that was definitely a nice one there. If you go to the portal on the top there, I'm going to just TP to Rubik. So far away. So yeah, you take the portal at the top there, it'll take you to the overworld side where we have the processing chamber. Okay, this is a little castle on the overworld side here. We got there's a small little area you got to just fall down and you use Luden to get the Striders. Of course, they only drop strings, so a simple shulker box loader is all that is needed. And then we have this giant castle. This one is one of the most insane looking castles I've ever done before.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Definitely fits it with everything with the fade on the roof too. Ties it all together with the Strider colors perfectly. And then we have the floor there that just puts the icing on the cake to go with the castle extremely well. Put on shaders real quick to actually see that because I turned them off a little bit for the frames. But yeah, at night this one looks pretty cool, and with all the floor and whatnot, mango blocks pop out a lot, especially with the shaders on. But yeah, this area looks absolutely amazing, and it's definitely one of the other things that was not needed to do, but it just shows that extra bit of effort to tie it all together and finish it off.
Damn.
This is our Nether-based Enderman farm, and you're probably
Oh,
wondering why the hell do we even have an Enderman farm in the Nether? If you haven't seen Lyra's video, it definitely goes into a lot more detail and explains the sort of bug, we're going to call it, with the Enderman spawning near chunk borders and whatnot in a warped forest. But yeah, this allows us to be pretty fast and get over 190,000 Ender pearls per hour. So this was a rather another unique farm that we did for everything here to combine. So yeah, everything here also used their gradient placer for the walls as well to create that sort of diagonal fade to it, which is pretty cool to do. And of course, we have the bedrock broken on the bottom for the farm to be at Y0. So if you can go to the overworld side, that way I can get the farm to work. All right, so we got the farm running here. We got the portals here. You can see just how many Endermen are spawning on this nether side, which shouldn't be the case for a warped forest if you are aware with the nether changes in 116. They have a certain thing like ghast and Endermen and skeletons. That way they only spawn, I think, like usually like 12 or so in a full player's spawn distance, but with this little bug with chunk borders, we're going to call it, you can force a lot more Endermen to spawn and pretty much bypass that little stipulation that they have for those guys there. Go to the overworld side here, we have our TNT looting area once again. It's very easy to be done with the sword looting and whatnot, but wanted to do something a little bit different. And we have a skeleton here that we had at Triangle for the music discs. They will apply the same looting effect as well, but it also gets rid of all the XP that would otherwise be getting created from the Enderman, so we can get rid of that. And then all of these Ender pearls get dropped down to the Shulker box loaders down here to get loaded, obviously, like that. And we actually have this full storage completely filled, so all the boxes right now would just despawn. But yeah, it's overall decoration. The idea with the drop chute here was to drop the ender pearls down so we didn't need the carpets to stop them from teleporting. But apparently that is larger than 32 by 32 blocks, so we actually had to carpet a lot of this stuff on the floor here within this little small area. So ideally we would have had this thing higher, but it's a lot more difficult, a lot more work to make it higher when it just can be nullified by placing the double carpet so that the enemy can't TP anywhere. But yeah, this one could also be printed by Floppy's printer for the floor. It's just another pattern again with the walls. Or one of the coolest things that we did for the overworld decoration here. Looks like the Enderman's mouth that's pretty much angry there. You kind of look at it in a sense. It's one of the decorations that I've used before, but changing it up to where it has the same color on the top and the bottom with the purple in the middle. Looks like an angry Enderman's mouth, so it ties this area together really, really nicely.
I think, as far as I'm aware, you're the only server I know that has made use of this mechanic, which is cool.
Yeah, so the reason why this farm kind of came about is I pretty much said with Strider, we had all the nether mobs farmed because we had the Hoglin, the gas, the gold, magma, all that stuff all farmed. But then a leader said, actually, you don't have the Enderman to spawn in the warp forest.
Actually?
So the last overworld one is going to be the TNT area. This one also has a vertically ascending and descending piston bolt. But yeah, the idea of it is we have Garlic Bread's Creeper Farm that is a modification of, I think, the Methods design. We have the TNT in here to get a lot of gunpowder. This one is not actually the same speed and whatnot as the farm itself or the Sand Duper because in 117 we can't use the faster dupers. We have to actually use the slower ones. Mainly the stuff's going to be in the world actually, where all the other stuff is, and then the rest of it is actually in the Nether. So there's a lot of boats here. Entity's probably not going to be the most favorite thing for your frames right now.
Try me.
So it's the full scale farm with all the boats and whatnot. So it's quite a bit. The boats were very annoying to do in 117 because we don't have waterlogged full blocks. So we actually had to do them each individually. So it was not fun, but it was possible to do. Pretty much what we did is we had, I forget entirely what we did, but some of the waterlogged sea pickles. That way we could actually place the boat, everything like that. I did it on stream. It's been a while, so I kind of forgot what I did, but I made it work. Everything like that. Yeah, so the farm here is a double length perimeter because there is actually an end portal in the center here. So where we have all of the sand being duped and whatnot. So that's the only way to really get sand renewably. So we have that in the center here, which is, I believe, by Garlic Bread, Floppy, and Hunter. They have this duper here, which is, I think, 108k, I believe. So it has the boats and whatnot. So it's not the nicest of things to do, but it is not terrible set up compared to the other ones that use the TNT and newer versions. Make it a lot easier. It's 192k. My bad. I got the amount wrong there. So yeah, got that little one right there. Making use of the end portal center, so we had to make a double length perimeter. We didn't have to, but it's a lot easier to do that rather than making a world eater that has to go around the end portal itself. So we did that with two different long perimeters. So it's a 500 by 272, so it's like a rectangle. And if you notice above by the portal, there is actually a little ice path from the Nether side collection for the creepers. The gunpowder gets transported from the Nether back to the overworld, and then it'll then make its way into the actual end at the bottom here. So we actually hop through the end portal in the center. We're going to go to the end and see that collection side. So in the end, all the drops from the sand as well as the gunpowder make their way into this. Then they're all transported over. So we have just a few shulker box loaders here for all the gunpowder and the sand and whatnot to be stored. So that's where everything gets stored here. So we transport both the gunpowder and the sand to the same central area. Don't have the mob switch on, so a lot of Endermans and whatnot. I'll do that real quick. But yeah, so all the drops get transported here to the central area where we have my TNT crafter making use of AutoCraft and table. We have 27 TNT crafters there that will produce around about 100,000 TNT per hour. Now, yes, of course, the creeper farm is a lot faster and the sand farm is a lot slower. That's why we have these two different giant bulk wings on the side. One of them being for sand, one of them being for the gunpowder. That way we can fill them all up and then craft the TNT all at once in one single area. But yeah, that's really the only thing you can really do without renewable sand. There's not really a way to combine them both without having to go to the end in one location. So we did here. Everything is all in one area. You can craft a bunch of TNT that we need for all of our TNT looting farms, of course, that we have all over the place with raid farms and the ones we've seen that use the TNT looting to get around the XP, stuff like that. So this one gets used quite a bit. We use a lot of that stuff with all the raid farms and stuff. So we're actually going to go to the one over here with the Endstone on top of it, that rubric guy, right? So yeah, this is another small castle in quotation marks. This is one of the largest ones we've ever done. This one is right around 250,000 blocks total place for this thing. It took a substantial long time, even with shadow items, to complete this castle here, but it fits the Enderman theme perfectly. So it's one of the coolest things that we've done in terms of decoration wise, but one of the ones that took the longest, of course. And all it is for is just to have our endstone storage. That's all that it is used for. We have about, I think, 4 and a bit million or 3.5 million endstone here that we have gotten so far from the quarry. But I'm going to just fly it since Oh yeah, so the quarry has gone through this much area so far. I think it's roughly about 1,500 blocks it's gone. I got a shulker box of like ice and whatnot and went all the way down and decided to just run the quarry that long just to get a bunch of endstone. This endstone quarry is, of course, by avoiding. It has no side trenches, no bottom trenches, so it is very, very easy to do and set up and everything like that. So there's no prep whatsoever, basically, besides getting rid of all the incidents in front of it. And if you have none, then you have no other prep to do whatsoever. So the good thing about the end with quarries and whatnot is there's no liquids, so you don't got to worry about that, and there's no immovable blocks besides the ones that generate in the end city. So you got to just clear those out, which is very easy to do. I didn't notice we have actually a gateway that's right here. That would have interfered with the quarry if it was any closer. But yeah, fine. So this thing has ran for quite a bit. Obviously, got us a lot of endstone. The only bad thing about endstone quarries is that there's a lot of void. So you kind of find an area that's kind of condensed with the islands themselves. Otherwise, you're basically just mining nothing and wasting a lot of resources for this thing. Overall, it wasn't too bad to make. The only difficult part was the top section, well, the top middle section, I should say, where there was a lot of stuff that you could update in the wrong order, and then it would then launch itself. So good thing I noticed those things when I was building it myself, and I was able to get it to work without any issues, which is a first for me, because usually something always goes wrong.
That's gonna be it for this tour. There was actually 2 remaining projects that we visited, but the clips got corrupted, so I won't be able to show them in this video. If you want to check the last project, you can check Squishy's channel and see the Wither Rose farm as well as the slime farm. That's gonna be it for this one, and I will see you later.